Scooter, it just changed course. Look, it's heading directly for the city.
Put Gobotron on full alert, Heat Seeker.
You've got it, Seamon.
Welcome back to Retro Wednesday. It's Titanium Hanger. This is Mike. And today I want to talk to you about all of the 20 Super Gobots that were made. We're going to go through each one of these. We're going to check out both modes, but this is a continuation of the series of Gobots. I started with the original 72 of the standard Gobots. Then I went into the Rock Lords, and now we're looking at Super Gobots. So we're going to take a look at all of these coming up. Okay, so the first one we're going to take a look at is Warpath, and I don't have a box for any of these, so we're going to start out looking at his box, just so a quick picture of his box, and they all look very similar to this. They show them in both modes, and then when you open it up, they're in styrofoam inside there, and then they kind of have a flap and then a see-through, but there's the box. Nothing really all that special. Now, this is a black AH-64 Apache helicopter, and it is also, this is a recolor of Big Apache Robo, which I looked up Big Apache Robo, and he looks, I just see this when I see Big Apache Robo, so I don't know what color variation the Big Apache Robo was. So anyhow, this one here, he does have a little bit like shoulder articulation, and this hand kind of flops around. That's really all that really does. Head doesn't do anything. Legs can sort of move a little bit. Got a little bit of leg articulation, but not much. So mostly he just stands there. A lot of these are going to have very limited articulation, and some of them have interesting articulation. I do like the stickers on the side, and stickers on the side, and he's pretty cool. And as you can see, there's a lot of die cast. You can see the shine of the die cast is painted, and so this is plastic. The legs are die cast. There's a few more parts in here die cast, but bigger, maybe not exactly better for all of these. Some of them are, but not all of these. But getting into his alt mode here, and there's the helicopter. It's a nice looking helicopter. These stickers kind of transfer over, and they look cool in robot mode, and they look cool in the helicopter mode. You do have these two landing gear on the bottom, one on the back. We'll roll it here in a bit. The cockpit, I don't see anything in there. Now we're going to see some that have like little characters in there. I don't see one. There might be a character, and I'm just not seeing it right. But anyway, and then here is the propeller. It does spin. It spins really well. It's on. It's got this connector like so, and the propeller actually is in the way in the robot mode, which is really kind of a strange. It would have been nice if you could just pull it off and clip it on this back or something. I think kids just pulled them off and just threw them in the toy box or something, or they just got lost. So, and then on this copy, the legs aren't wanting to stay in place very well. I don't know if that's a common issue. We also have this rear stabilizer propeller, and that's what it looks like. This is Warpath, and not much to him, but I think he looks cool. Okay, so this is Super Cycle, and with that, this is Cycle in both modes. Right here, he is number 21. So Warpath was number 20, and I don't know what 1 through 19. I don't know why they started at 20 with these, but Warpath was number 20 in the Super Gobots, and Cycle's number 21. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But I do want to put this up. Now I have right here my custom, and the reason I made this custom is because I wanted it to look like the original, and we'll kind of do a quick comparison of that here in a bit. But I want to put a picture up right here showing the Machine Robo version, or an overseas version that they say is the Big Bike Robo. And the difference really is that it has a paint job. It's not shiny, like this is more of a metallic look. It's not metallic shiny. It's more just kind of like a spray paint, a coat of paint on it. But it does, I think, the Machine Robo one looks a little bit better than what we got. But then, of course, I got this custom one that I kind of made with some shiny paint on it myself. It's kind of made it chromed out, and I took the wheels off and fabricated them on there to put them on the side there. Here's a standard Cycle right here, and I had this as a kid, and I liked this one more than this one because this one matched the cartoon, this one did not, and they should really have made it look like the cartoon, more like the cartoon. They didn't. So you've got the wheels on the back, which I did not like as a kid. As an adult collector, you probably would appreciate that because a lot more of these have the wheels for the super ones than these little ones here, and he is weak in the waist. He's not weak in the knees, weak in the waist, but it makes the smaller one a better version in my opinion, but harder to get all the pieces and way more expensive, believe it or not, to get the little one than the big one. Now, I would have been happy as a kid if they would have just simply upscaled this one from this to this and just made it exactly the same except bigger. And in a lot of ways it is the same. Like the arm is pretty similar, the legs are pretty similar, but it's just the transformation and all of that. And kind of getting this out of the way so you can see his back and how it's similar but yet different, because they did do remold. I think they wanted to go out of their way to make them bigger, I guess. I'm guessing that's why they did like that. All right, here's articulation. Just that's it. You don't get much. You don't get much articulation out of them, which is kind of a downside to these for the most part. But I had this as a kid and I loved it. Here's the motorcycle mode, and it's pretty much identical to the original one, aside from the fact that it's not chromed. So, and here's what I'm thinking. The cost to chrome the bigger figures was probably too expensive. So to keep a price point, they made them bigger but cheaper, is the way I look at it. So we don't get all this beautiful, wonderful chrome that's on this one, or the vac metallized chrome. We just have the bare plastic in. There was a slight overspray of paint for the version that was overseas, the Machine Robo, but there's Cycle, Super Cycle, Bike Robo. All right, now we have Space C. This is a spaceship. Now, this is another one that was based off of a figure that I actually have one right here. Similar to the original one, it turns into a space shuttle, and the smaller version looks a lot like it. So the alt mode matches pretty close, but the bot mode is way different. And this is one of those that they went a way different direction when they went bigger. You think Psykill's a strange change, and this guy's not one to stand, but such a difference in these. And we'll look at him again here in just a second when we look at the alt mode. But he does have his arms that go a little bit in and out, and that's about all you get out of his arms. Oh, there we go. There we go. So it's kind of strange, kind of cheap. This is one of the cheaper ones too. You can catch this one for probably like $10, and I don't know if they all have the parts for $10, but it's still pretty cool to have them, and it looks okay. And starting to think about it though, I would have liked to have had just a bigger scaled up version, but I'm betting that this is based on the Big Shuttle Robo. So this is just a US release of the Big Shuttle Robo, and here is the spaceship mode, and it looks really nice. And so a lot of times back in the day with the Gobots and with the Transformers, they put the alt mode first, and so the bot mode was kind of an afterthought in a way. And so with that, you get a really good shuttle mode, and then there is the other standard figure in its shuttle mode, and that's how that looks. So pretty cool. It's got the little thrusters on the back, but still another one where you have vac metallized on the smaller one. You just don't get it on this one here, and you do have metal parts in it, some die cast here and there. I do feel this is being die cast, and so I do like that. I do like that about these, that they're die cast. This is Space C, a cool one, a cheap one, a very affordable one. Next up, we have another cheap one. A real cheap one is Stax, and pretty easily available, and definitely not Optimus Prime, that's for sure. But it is an interesting looking one right here, and this Stax is based on recolor of Big Truck Robo, and it's available with or without his trailer. So we're gonna take a look at that, and he's an orange Peterbilt 352H, and let's take a look at this guy real quick, and then we'll look at everything. This is the only one that's really, his name is based on his accessories. Those are his smokestacks, so he can't have his smokestacks and eat them too. No, he can't have them on and be in robot mode, so he has to put them in his hands. So that's just the way that is, and this is how he looks from the back. Really not any articulation in the legs. The arms do quite a bit, so you can sort of make up for it in the arms a bit, but, and there's his head. He can... Having the windshields as heads, I always thought was a real cheap trick for the Super Gobots, which turned me off to most Super Gobots till later on when they got a little more sophisticated with the transformations. And well, one gimmick here is that these smokestacks / guns, they come off and then you can plug them in to these holes here in the alt mode. And so him being cheap. He's like $10 without the smokestacks on eBay. Like I checked, there's a whole bunch of them right around that price point. $10, maybe 5 shipping or something. But then once you get smokestacks, the smokestacks are like 20 just for the stacks. So then the price stacks up on you. Here he is with a little rolling. He should roll. It's another one where the legs, you got to get them all clipped in just right. And then, well, he's a little older. But not bad looking. Not bad looking at all. And just, it's one that quintessentially I see it and I'm like, that's a Gobot. That's a Gobot. Some of them hold in better than others. But the transformation is not too hard. It's pretty simplistic. But these break. I see a lot of these get broken. And you can get this guy with or without this trailer. Now this trailer is kind of cool. It says Mighty Robots, GoBots, Mighty Vehicles, and both sides. You do have this so that you can fold these down, kind of like Optimus Prime's trailer. And if you don't have them connected, then you can have those on there, fold that in and connect this here, and you've got this going on. And I'm messing up the gimmick right here. It's got a gimmick. And if you want to put some vehicles in there. So I think he's really made to drive around with standard GoBots in it. Here's the way it's supposed to work. You're supposed to pop this so it's realistic and you can drive them up. So it feels like you're doing it on a realistic way. And then you can put them on the top. But, you know, most kids probably aren't going to go through all that trouble, but it's a fun play feature. Most kids are probably just going to like roll them in like so. And then you put one more in there. You probably put one more in there and then stack a few of them on top like so. These are just some junkers I have laying around that I don't care what happens to them. But that is what I think this is mostly for. And that's pretty much everything I know about stacks. Okay, so next up we have Leader 1, and he's number 24. He's the gray F-15 Eagle US release of the Big Eagle Robo, and I guess I wasn't up on the numbers. Warpath was 20, Cycle 21, Space C22, Stacks 23, Leader 1 24. For whatever reason, that matters. So here he is, pretty much just like the original one, almost 100%. The only real difference between these is he does have some landing gear we're going to see, and that's about it, really. I mean, he's pretty much just an upscale of the original one. And add a little bit of paint here and there, I guess. Some stickers on him that the other original one doesn't have. And that's really the only difference here is the alt mode. Since we already know Leader 1, then there's not much to say about this. So there's the landing gear that they added into it to make it worth the extra money, I guess. And with that, he does suffer all the same problems we had with the original one. Like these wings over time droop. They don't want to just hold in place tight. Now, there's ways to fix that, which I have not done. I don't know why. But you can put some polish in there and just kind of get it to where they hold in place better and that kind of stuff. Not a huge concern of mine, but it is a concern. But not much to say about Leader 1. There's a whole bunch of different ones that we don't know much about, or people don't know much about, that we're going to get into. Number 25 is Baron Von Joy. He's a silver Porsche 930 Turbo. He comes with a gun, and he's the US release of the Porsche 930T scale Robo. So, as a robot mode, this is another one of those, and I think we're getting into 1, 2, 3, 4 more of these that are like this, that are with the head being just the windshield, or kind of that whole cab section as the head. I did not like that as a kid. I thought that it just didn't give him much of a face and personality, but that's how he looked in the cartoon too. So they didn't try to like cheat it like Transformers did with Ironhide and Ratchet. They cheated that whole thing, but this is exactly what he looks like in the show. So anyhow, he does come with this gun that also clips to the top of the car, and that's a cool feature, and which is something I actually didn't know until recently. I was like, oh, that's cool. And so he has the red underneath, which is kind of crazy. Like, you wouldn't know there's any real red in it in the alt mode until you see him come out and pull his red arms and legs out. From the back, he looks like he's missing something, but this kind of transforms into it and just kind of takes over in there. And we'll see some of the other ones that I'll show some problematic issues with that. Does have a couple of stickers on them. Mine aren't the greatest, and mine aren't in the greatest shape. I got them pretty cheap because they're not really that expensive of figures, but I was really going for cheap because I wanted two. I wanted in each mode, as many as I could. So here he is from the bottom when he's in his alt mode, his Porsche mode. still a nice looking Porsche overall, and it's kind of fun. Like these early ones are still really easy to get for a good price, and so you can have fun with them and enjoy them. And sadly, if you break one, well, breaking's sad, but they're not expensive to replace. This is Baron Von Joy, and he is number 25. Okay, so number 26 on the list here, it's Z-Mon. Z-Mon. And that's a red Datsun 280Z Fairlady Z, and it's a US release of the 280Z scale Robo. And so with him, this is another one with the head being the cockpit. You actually can see the driver in there, and he's a right side driver, which is not a US standard, so that's interesting. And I guess introduce kids to that. He set this sticker on here, so it's a nice. I don't know. I don't know why this comes with a sticker, but interesting that way it is. Got a couple other stickers on it around here from the back. Now this is another thing. This is supposed to have an opening canopy thing. I've got mine on there. We'll see in the alt mode if I don't know if the one in the alt mode even opens either, but. These break very easy, and so I don't know, sometimes they're glued on or they're just stuck on so good that I don't want to move them and try to move them off of there. So looking at the alt mode, it's kind of flimsy, and I found it really hard to get one of these that was in decent enough shape that we had all of the parts to it and it transformed and everything. That was a challenge, and I actually have this one here where the trunk opens up, which is cool. A lot of them you see just this piece missing, and that is frustrating and challenging when you see that. Some of the stickers on the side here, this Fairlady Z on the license plate, rubber tires of course, and it does roll. And so it's a nice looking car, a nice looking vehicle. And this is where I feel like the vehicle came first, and then the Z-Mon figure came last, but that's Z-Mon. Next up, we have Herr Fiend, and Herr Fiend is a black Porsche 928S, and it's a recolor of the Porsche 920S scale Robo, and it is a US only variant. It was reissued in Europe. There's some different colors issued in different places, and so with that, I'm not exactly sure where this one came from, but here's this guy here, and I don't know why that sticker's on him, but he does have the same driver in there, and they do come with a driver. It's a huge driver too, way bigger than some of the other drivers, but still kind of cool. The color variants are a little bit fun. I don't have very many because they're hard to get, a little expensive, and really unnecessary in my opinion, but I thought this color is way cooler with this kind of blue than with the black on it. So looking at him from the back, now he does have this flappy flap, this trunk piece, which is kind of cool that it happens, but it always breaks. They always break this. I think this one's broken, so I'm not going to mess with it. And so here's their articulation on the arms, and it's pretty much the same for all of these that are this style. You have the arms can pretty much do 360 at the shoulder, and then you can have the hands go up and down. And then for the last two, this one and the Z-Mon, they don't come with an accessory. I guess they view the driver built in as the accessory, so they don't give them a gun or anything. So, which is fine with me because it's much easier to track down a complete one without having to try to find a gun. Now, I would say that this is an accessory right here. This thing here is an accessory because it breaks off and falls off, but it looks really good. Like, it looks nice. Sports car of the time, and so does roll. He's got the rear view mirrors on it, which I didn't really showcase on the other one, but and there's like silver stickers, so you do see on the rear view. And then what does his license plate say? It's really hard with the reflective to get anything on that license plate. It says Porsche 928S, that's what it says. So it's a pretty cool looking one. It's got some painted headlights and all that kind of stuff in the transformation. Trying to transform on me, but this is Herr Fiend, and let's move on. So next up, we have Bumblebee. No, he's not Bumblebee. This is Bugbite. Bugbite is number 28. He's a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, and he does come with his one gun, as US releases a Volkswagen Beetle scale Robo. And the thing about this is that he comes with this gun, and I just now realized how you're supposed to clip it on his hand, if that's the right way, I hope. But I always just clip it on his head, or on the alt mode there. So but interesting looking. This is not the last one we're going to see, which has this head thing going on. We actually have a tank, and then we have one more that has that gimmick. And of course, same articulation, really nothing in the legs at all. And they all kind of have a similar yet different transformation. So they do something a little bit different with each one. And so it's not all just the exact same thing and swapping body parts out. I do think it has to do with, I think they start here and then they work to there. That's kind of how they did it. But interesting looking. And I always thought it was kind of cool that we had a VW. My buddy's a huge VW collector, like real VWs. And so I'm missing a wheel on there. But I think it looks pretty cool in the alt mode. Now let's show you what this does in the alt mode. I only have one of these, and I wasn't really wanting to spend much on these Super Gobots. It was just one of those things that I just wanted the bare minimum to have a collection of them, and so I can have one of each and kind of piece me together an extra one right there. Looks pretty cool. That goes on the front, and you're not gonna be able to see anything, but I guess he doesn't need to see anything. He is a robot, and kind of rolls. Got the chrome bumpers and chrome on the rims, and it says Beetle. And yeah, it's pretty nice overall. Very affordable one, real cheap, real common. Bug Bite. Next up, number 29, we have Destroyer. He is a tank, and he is a Green Leopard A4. He comes with a gun and a gun barrel. So very interesting how this works. So I think it's kind of fun because I only have one complete one, and so I can use like one gun on his nose right there, and then one right here. Or you can pull this off, and then I'm not exactly sure how they expect this to work, but this is the gun. This is the gun barrel, I guess. Is that how it's supposed to go? And then this goes on to here, and I think I've seen him showed on his arm. So let's do that. It's not how I display it at all, but yeah, mine's got some issues. There it goes. So that's supposed to go. So, whatever. It's not a big deal to me. This, there's his head, and it's another one where you have the cockpit kind of at the head there, and then the arms have that same articulation. So it's very similar to the kind of ones we've been seeing, almost uninspired. But this is a very common one. You see it a lot of the time. Sometimes you see the treads messed up on them, which can be an issue. I think this one might not have treads. And then the feet break real easy. So there's a lot of breakage points with these, but there is some die cast and heft to them. But this one here, let's move it out of the way and let's look at the tank. Here's the tank mode and the tank mode. I see a lot of times people do have this doubled up, and I guess this is broken. I haven't put them together in a long time, so I didn't know. But there it is if you want it the long barrel or probably just something like that. And that's probably how you want to do it. It will move side to side, rotate up and down, and roll. So it's pretty cool as a tank. It's a very convincing tank, but of course, how convincing are you if you have no treads? That does kind of suck. But this is Destroyer, and he is number 29. And a lot of fun. Let's go back to how I normally just display them, which is like this, and I think that displays very well. Okay, so number 30 is Psycho, and Psycho is really, really common, but that's cool because he's actually really, really interesting. Now, he's the last one we're going to look at that has this cockpit of a head, but it is a super futuristic vehicle and a super futuristic looking robot. It's got some not vag metalized, some reflective kind of sticker on there, which is pretty nice. It says Future Machine on it, and a lot of chrome here and there, so it's a really cool looking one. And definitely, if you can grab one of these for like $10, it is really a cool one to have in your collection, and the same kind of articulation that you would expect from all these other ones. But the all mode is pretty rad. Now, they didn't give them a weapon, but they doubled down on the drivers. You get a vac metalized one and a red one, so that's cool. And this, it looks like the cockpit would open up, and almost it's like got a notch in there and everything, but it doesn't. It doesn't open up, or if it does, it's not supposed to, I don't think. So maybe it does. I don't know. I don't think it's supposed to, but it is pretty cool looking. Looks like it hovers, even though it does have the wheels, so it can roll. but it has that look like it's hovering, kind of like a James Bond kind of car. Really interesting, really cool. And it's also cool to have something that's interesting like this and very affordable and cheap and readily available. I think there's like 100 of them still on eBay right now. So this one here, Psycho, one of the more interesting Super Gobots that are out there. Next up, we have number 31, Defender. Defender is a tank. He is a green/tan Saladin MK2. I think that's what it is. And then this is a US release of MK2 Robo, and there's 2 versions issued now. We're going to get into the 2 versions, but there's the long barrel, which is the one I have in robot mode, and then there's a short barrel. So let's take a look at him, and then we'll talk about the differences. So he does come with this gun, this cannon of his, which just plugs into his arm and sort of, really hard to get out of his hand. So there's his gun, which is interesting. But I don't really know if there's anything you can do with it in the alt mode so much. I haven't figured that out. But here he is. He's got some paint right here and an interesting little head that's going on right there. The head kind of is all into this back piece. It's all tucks into all of that kind of stuff too. And then going down, he's got some decent articulation in the arms, in and out on the shoulders because of transformation for the most part, but this goes no elbow or anything. And you have a little bit going on in the waist, and of course he's got some feet to hold himself up, but not really much with articulation. As they go on, they get a little bit more into the articulation. Okay, so I guess the barrel does just pop off and on the long barrel one. Huh, interesting. Very interesting. Serafine would be saying, very interesting. So from the back here, we see the back. Now, we're going to look at this alt mode, and then I'm going to do the differences in comparison. Now, I was happy to get 2 of this one because they're 2 different modes. This is the short barrel one, and put that back on there. And it looks pretty interesting. Now, I believe this is the front. That's the front of a tank. I believe that's right. But if it's supposed to go that way, I don't think so. So that's why I think it's this way. So there's a few things about this. The alt mode, that's what it looks like. It's got 6 wheels, rubber tires, and fun stuff there. But this is, I think, the second version. The short barrel's the second version. The first one has these little compartment covers. I don't know what their ammo compartment covers. So there's a long one that goes in here, a short one that goes here, and a tiny one that goes there, which I didn't even know this was a thing when I first bought one, because I got it for like $10 from a local shop, and he had another one that he wanted 50 for, and I didn't understand the difference. So that little piece is missing from all of the long ones that I see. But then when they revised it, they don't have those caps. They're hollow on the sides. So instead of being hollow on top, they're hollow on the sides. So this variation, so this is the first one, and it's harder to get. You can get them missing everything, but these little covers, for whatever reason, it's hard to get. But the short barrel one is also different because all of the molding on here is molded in. Like, you can't open these covers on it. But on this one, you can open these flaps, which is really strange. And that stuff is just remolded in here. Same thing, like this whole thing's molded in and there's no covers on the side there. So interesting though, variation. It's a definite major running change for this guy. But instead of being the destroyer, he's the defender tank. 31. All right, so number 32 is Throttle, and he is a blue BMW 100 KRS. And in the US, he's blue. In the UK, the Europe version is the silver. So I did not get the US blue one, and so I will show a picture of the US blue one, and I think that the blue actually looks interesting, but the silver feels more realistic in my opinion than the blue one. But I am having to reshoot this because all this time I had the wheels on the back wrong. I guess that's how it's supposed to go from the pictures I've seen. It looks like this. So anything you do with these wheels just looks wrong and funky, but I'll just go with what pictures. When I pulled the pictures for the blue one, I was like, wait, that's how people think the wheels should go, so I'm just gonna copy all of that. He is kind of cool looking. His arms go up and down like that. He has an elbow joint. The hand is so what else can I do wrong on this guy? The hand is not even out yet on his hands, So, as we see, with these, they become more sophisticated. Going forward, this, if you'll stand up, these going forward are more sophisticated, more expensive, harder to get your hands on, more steps in the transformation, and more things that can break. So with that, I'm going to set him over here out of the way, and then we have the bike, the motorcycle. It's a really cool looking motorcycle, and I'm kind of thinking you might be able to put like a G.I. Joe figure on it. Nothing like multiple cross-company, cross-toy integration that wasn't really intended, but that's kind of cool. I mean, this thing came so late in the line and was hard to find that I didn't have it back in the day, but it is still really pretty cool. And that's cool that you can put a Joe figure on it. So it's falling over. So looking at this motorcycle here, you do have a retractable kickstand. You have rubber tires on it. It does roll really well. You got this nice big seat. You have the handlebars. You have an instrument panel. You have some stickers here, here, and here. You have this front headlight, which is actually a transparent piece, I believe. Nope, it's silver back metallized. You have a transparent windshield, but there's a nice frame around it. I think I might be missing a sticker on this here. Still, really, it's a pretty interesting one. One that, since most people didn't have this growing up, or maybe the few that did will remember it, but it is a pretty cool figure overall. Now, I guess since I figured out the alleged correct transformation sequence on this, there goes throttle. Number 33 is Vamp, and Vamp is a pretty cool one. Even though it's really just a scaled up version of the standard one, it is scaled up, but it is enhanced and smoothed out. I like the look of the Super one better than the original one. Now, it does share this crazy shoulder bottom looking thing, looking like it's unfinished, but it shares that. But aside from that, it is so much better in my opinion. So looking at this, this back piece, it folds down. I don't know why I had it folded up, but it folds down. But it feels so much more solid than the smaller one. The smaller one's real fiddly and fidgety, and this one here feels like everything, when it's in place, it stays in place. Now, that might just be that this one's in better condition. And I didn't pay a whole lot for it. I think I paid like $30 for this guy because of all the fiddliness. And when we get into the alt mode, I'll show you all the problems that my $5 one has. So, but I like the purple paint, the red eyes, and then the other turquoise paints and all that kind of stuff, where this one is just monochrome for the most part. Now, it might just be worn, but yeah, this does look really cool. When it's in the alt mode, it's got a really nice metallic looking paint to that piece right there, which is kind of missing off my alt mode one, but it's got an antenna. So it's almost a direct upscale of the other one, but since they're making it bigger, they made it a little bit better. It's not exactly the same, so none of them are exactly 100% the same as the smaller one. So here he is in his whatever bug mode, bugmobile mode that this is. I never liked this figure, this character, this figure, the vintage one. I do like the super one better than the smaller one, and it's more impressive, but I think the alt mode's kind of goofy. It feels like it's a knockoff of a Batmobile before the 89 Batman came out, because I think there's like 86, 87, something along those lines. But a couple of problems. So the paint gets chipped off real easy in this area, and the arms break. So as you can see right here, I have a broken arm, and that's just a problem that comes along with all of these. And so with that, condition really dictates price. That's how you can get one for $30 and one for $5, and they're the same thing for the most part. But this is Vamp, and it's a very good upscale of the smaller one. Okay, so next up we have number 34, Razor, and this guy is pretty interesting. These next last ones are getting harder to get your hands on, a little more expensive. This is a white experimental VTOL F4 Phantom, and it does have a rotor blade, and it was a US European only release, and it is not the easiest to get. And since it's all white, you can see that it starts to lose its coloration over time. And I think this can be unplugged like all the rest of them, but I'm not gonna risk it. But as you can tell, it is the correct propellers for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's straight, and a lot of people would probably try to put the one on that goes with Warpath. The Warpath has a bit of a curve at the end, so it's not straight at the end like these, but they both kind of collapse the same way, so they have similar. And Warpath's is black at the base, where this one is white at the base, so it matches up better. But with that, dropping this guy, he is a pretty expensive one. I mean, you're looking at like $100 figure or so, and to me, just none of these Super Gobots I feel like is worth spending $100 on. But rarity dictates price, and then of course demand. So rarity and demand. It can be rare and not in demand, but these have some demand. Gobots are in demand. People like Gobots, so especially the rare ones. But so he does have a blue face. It's all painted. It is static. It doesn't move, and his arms have a bit of motion up and down, elbow joint, and some arm motion. A little bit more, in my opinion, than we got with some of these. But the legs are literally just a stand. They don't move at all. So pluses and minuses. This is Razor. I'm gonna have the picture up here of his alt mode, but I'm not gonna put him in his alt mode. I'm not gonna mess with all that because of the fact that I don't want to break this expensive figure. Next up, we have number 35 Super Cooper, which is a black Ford Coupe, and we'll see the alt mode here in a bit. Now, this is one that I stored in the alt mode, so I wanted to show off the bot mode, so I had to transform it. So I did show the alt mode, and I'm going to try to display all these in the bot mode in my display, and that was the long-term goal. But he is pretty cool. He is really hard to get. There's not one on eBay right now. Maybe there's one in one of the other eBays, like the UK or the CA or something like that, JP eBay, but I just checked the US. I didn't see any stickers right here, here, and here. Vac metallized chromed head, and the flames from the alt mode carry through. Really a strange design. I guess that he comes with a heel spur right here, if I've got him transformed right, because it looks like it's right. It looks like the pictures I've seen of the bot mode, but very little articulation. The arm moves around, this hand moves in and out, and I mean, we're not talking 2023, we're talking 1986 or 7, and so with that, this is not anything really amazing, but you do have a knee movement in here, but a knee movement without a hip movement is in my opinion a waste, unless he's going to be like on his knees begging for forgiveness from Psycho. But this is still an interesting one. Let's take a look at the alt mode. All right, here is Super Cooper in the alt mode, and I am not showing the transformations on these for time purposes and for the fact that I don't want to break them. They are very delicate. They're old, delicate, and transformations are a little more complex on these, but nothing like today's standards. But this is the Super Cooper alt mode. Looks really good. It's a Ford Coupe, and that's kind of how they put it down, as a black Ford Coupe. And I don't know what year, what model. You can open this up, and it's like you can open up and see the engine, kind of a thing right there. That opens up, and so it's got a couple of cool features. Rubber tires, like always, and it rolls really well, and it looks really good. Really cool alt mode. Okay, so next up we have number 36, Spy Eye. Spy Eye is a gray and green Tornado GR3 jet plane, and it's a pretty cool looking jet and pretty interesting. And so some of these, till I was saying, hey, which few am I missing? This is one I didn't even know existed. I was thinking, wow, this is interesting and crazy. But this is how it looks. He's got a vac metallized head with kind of just a big red dot in the middle as an eye, and you can kind of see what's going on in his cockpit right here. His arms are just straight, but they move around, and you have a little in and out of the hands due to the transformation. This is real fiddly right here. When I transformed it, I was like, is this how it goes? It is a strange transformation. It really is. It doesn't mimic anything in Gobots, and really doesn't mimic anything I remember from Transformers either. So it does have that camo look to it all over, just camouflage stickers all over this guy, and the fins kind of tuck in right there. But he's a pretty cool looking one overall, and it's interesting figure. Let's look at the alt mode real quick. And so with this alt mode, he does look pretty cool. It's a pretty cool looking jet. Not like the cockpit. The nose cone is a black nose cone. You've got stickers all over this guy here and there. Pretty cool looking figure. And so anyhow, this is the later versions of these, harder to get. He's climbing in price. He's not the most expensive one by any means, but it is getting harder and harder to get your hands on one of these. It was not the easiest one to snag up, but I think it's definitely worthwhile because he is a pretty cool looking figure. Number 37 is Clutch, and he's a red Chevy CK, and it's a US variant, is issued in Europe. So there's a silver window version out there, I hear. I've never seen a silver window version, but I haven't seen very many of these at all. I actually, in my looking and questing for these, I've only seen like 4 or 5 ever for sale. And so with this guy is just strange looking. He looks like a chunky monkey, like he's having trouble getting around. His tiny little arms, and I made sure that I checked several resources that it was transformed correctly, or it matched all the pictures online that I was looking at, because I was like, there's no way this could be correct. And this is one I'm going to put the picture of the alt mode up top there. I am not going to transform this guy again, and it's not a tough, hard transformation. It just feels like there's something, it just doesn't feel right as you're doing it. It's just really goofy, and I felt several times I was going to break it or did break it. So with that, it's not hard. It's just feels like I'm going to break an old toy made of cheap plastic. It almost feels like I broke something off right there, right here. But anyhow, this is Clutch number 37, and yeah, he is really hard to get for some strange reason. Okay, so the very last one is number 38, Night Fright. Not Fright Night at Freddy's, but Night Fright, and he is a tan and gray MI-24, I think that's what it is, and it comes with a rotor that I don't have. So when we get to the alt mode, I'm going to just use one from the Warpath, and I think a lot of people do that, but it's supposed to have 5 blades versus the 4, but he is by far the hardest one to get out of all of these. According to all of the resources and my experience, this dude is stupid expensive. I got a good deal on one because he didn't have a rotor. But with the rotor, I mean, you're looking at like $500 nowadays, $400 or $500, which I think is stupid for a GoBot. But again, demand and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not ponying up for that. I'm gonna have my shelf and be happy. But does it have a driver in there? I can't tell if there's a driver in that, and I just can't see it even with all my light in the cockpit there. And then his head is just kind of like they're doing with a lot of these. It's just like a line of visor going on. Here is this kind of carries over from the alt mode, and let's see what else we have going on with him. He has like a little bit of up and down with the hands right here, and then he's got a camo print on his arms, his shoulders. He does kind of have a 360, and he can kind of get a bit of a reverse butterfly in that arm of his, and then the legs you get a little bit forward, and you don't have anything in the knee. This does go up and down for the transformation, and the transformation is interesting because the hips kind of have some pull out to flip around, which took me a second to figure out that that's how it was supposed to work. And when you're working with something like this that's kind of an expensive figure and too expensive to replace, in my opinion, then you take your extreme time. I mean, you're talking a vintage toy that's masterpiece expense, but this is Night Fright. Let's look at the alt mode. Here is Night Fright in the alt mode, and I have to say that I'm cheating. This isn't really his propeller. I got one as cheap as I could. I got the cheapest one I could, of course, and it didn't have a propeller for it to be a cheap one. It does have some landing gear that you can fold out, and again, very concerned about breaking these. These are very expensive and hard to get your hands on. Very expensive and hard to get your hands on. So with that, I'm not going to worry about having a second one for alt mode or any of that kind of stuff. And really just one is enough. But I do like that the engineering on this is a little bit different. And just kind of want to do a quick comparison to the Warpath, which is the one that I took this off of. I took this propeller from the Warpath, but that's how it looks side by side with it. Really, really cool. And this is a tan green MI-24. Is that what it says? MI-24. But pretty cool looking overall if you have the right blades. So this is my look at the Super Gobots, the 20 that were released in the US. And of course, I did have one of them that was the wrong color because I did get a US blue one. But I wanted to show you all of the modes, both modes of each one of these. This is mostly an easy line to collect, except for maybe 6 really hard ones to get out of them. And usually there's only like 1 or 2 that's hard to get. Most of these last 5 or 6 are pretty challenging. But it's a fun toy line. Some of these are almost exact replicas and upscales of the smaller ones, and some of them are completely reworked, like Space C. And I think Hasbro did some sort of an homage to Space C with one of their most recent figures. But anyhow, I want to know what you think about these Super Gobots. Are you into them? Did you not know that this many existed? Like I did. There are like 5 of them I didn't know existed just 6 months ago. And do you have all of these? Have you had all these? Do any of these bring back memories for you? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Tell your hanger out.
I didn't think this plan was going to work at all.
Congratulations, cadets. That's the worst score on the hostage rescue scenario in the history of the Guardian Academy.
Oh.